really popular. So that is also one inspiration for this. And here are just briefly the topics of where I'm heading. This is, I forgot to say, this is in process. This is my artwork. So I'm still going a bit deeper to slow looking in virtual world, and also trying to find new ways to experience and feeling the boredom. That is usually something we try to avoid. We start to play because we want to avoid boredom, but in this game, it's the place where you can actually practice, and the game where you actually go to experience this level. This was going through with this. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tiia. A big hand for Tiia. I see there's one question or a comment that came in for you, Tiia. Oh, so nice. So it's a compliment. I would imagine being the winner in being the slowest game. That's interesting. Being the winner in the slowest game. How would that work? Can you explain how you combine the kind of competitive element and the slowness and the new lifestyle element?
Yeah, it's an individual game, so actually you are competing with yourself there. It's not multiplayer game, so you are not actually competing with each other. But yeah, that's the question. It's really interesting on what level you actually reach something, because then you are on the level of competing that actually you are trying to avoid. So that's the question also yourself when you are playing.
Interesting. It reminds me somehow to the whole notion of playing versus gaming, and playing being in a different state of mind and enjoying being, in this case, in your rich, very aesthetically pleasing environment, rather than competing. And I think that's what you're trying to grasp, isn't that?
Yes, and also I was thinking, because on the game and play you always kind of make your own new world with own rules, and this is kind of like trying you to teach on the level that you actually can make your own new rules for yourself and your own world in this kind of like a limited safe space, but then you can bring the thought with you to, I don't know, this our reality or actuality, or how we call it.
There's another comment coming in. You're popular. But you're right, the comment says, that we should be trained not to be hectic and stressed. So that's a beautiful comment here. So you seem to be very inspirational for people. So that's really cool. I'm just gonna check if there is another question here from the room. Is there a question from the room? No? No. Doesn't seem so. I think we're gonna wrap up, and I would like to thank you again. Also, before we close the connection with Tiia, I would like to mention that another work of her is part of the Cocoland project that is exhibited here in the Art University. So feel free and feel invited to have a look at Tiia's work in the exhibition at the Art University in Linz. And take care in Finland, and hope everyone can welcome you back in Linz very soon. Thank you. Big hand. a little break of a couple of minutes, and then we will continue with our next guest, Balínt, here live from Linz.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Can you check now, Anthony, if I can hear it? Hello, 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 hello. You're getting me there, right? And if I
Welcome back at Agora Digitalis. Echo. We are the platform for artists and researchers to share their works and their works in progress. And I have a new guest here on the couch, and that is Balínt Budai, who is studying here at the Art University of Linz in the Department of Interface Cultures. And he will be talking about his work that is currently exhibited at the Art University. So Balínt, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Hello everyone. I want to talk about my project, which is an ongoing project, so it's still on progress. This is a VR project, what I'm planning to do, and yeah, it will exhibited in Best of, actually, around December, if Corona situation let it happen. So yes, the background of the project, it started from the lockdown time, when I was decided to do something which is kind of a social interface, but from the beginning was that I had a feeling about the lockdown that I really want to express something from my perspective, and that's why I was participating, and I'm still participating here also in Ars Electronica Festival in the Cocoland project, and it's about Corona related portraits, let's say. And the VR project is more about something which is kind of can be a social experiment, or some more a funny game, but not from my perspective, because I thought that's what's happening if I'm not being in the street and only shouting why I lose my job, or why the dolphins back to Venice, or something like that, why the spring is better than ever during the lockdown. So yeah, so I wanted to create something not only for my purpose, but for the other people, that they can, I don't know, be depressed and proud at the same time. Let's see. So the concept and idea, so the background of Beat the Fuck at Home, already I wanted to start it with the title, because it's like I saw the hashtag Stay the Fuck at Home movement, so it came from actually the idea that I wanted to do something useful and humorous at the same time. So it's based on a lightsaber game, which is a really popular one. You can use the VR glasses to enter the world where box is coming, and also in the rhythmical way you can cut those boxes into half and yeah, have fun. And it's also there's a multiplayer game, so I thought maybe I will try to find something based on this game, but instead of cutting boxes, the participants or the gamer, the users, can beat the coronaviruses and use a disinfection a spray bottle, which is empty, because at that time it was really the stores out of toilet papers and those disinfection bottles. So yes, and I think it's also something could be useful if there's a lockdown happening and you can only play at home, and using the game to fight against the virus. That's how it looks like now, and there you can see from your perspective also the coronavirus is coming like the boxes in the VR game, and then you can use the bottle. There's some gloves in your hand, and now there's in the background there's kind of Arizona. I don't know. Let's say, but yeah, I think I will use another environment. Let's see.
Thank you, thank you. A big hand for Balínt.
Yeah, but I will want to explain more. So it
Yeah,
looks like
let's check now. Maybe you can fill up the time with
Mhm.
continuing with your presentation, unless people have questions from the room. Is there any questions for Balínt? Now, lucky you, you don't have questions. So please take your time and
Yeah.
fill up the remaining minutes to continue to tell about your project.
Okay. So while you are using this spray bottle, there's I'm planning to put there some points if you are good enough to beat those viruses. Just pop up the toilet papers and masks, and the sound can be the horrible part of the daily life, like you are in the tram and everything and everybody sneezing at you and coughing, and you are trying to escape, and we are all experimenting, I guess, something like this. So I'm planning to make this deformed electric noise, what I used to do with those reality reflective something and human noises. Let's see. And yeah, the plan is to finish the artwork, and maybe I can also put the multiplayer part of it, like to make it more like really as a social interface. And while we are you told me about when we have a lecture from you, and the social design. So I was inspired by also by the lecture. So yes, and I think it's really good then if the humor and also this useless and useful game mixing together and exist.
Now, exactly.
Thank
in
you for
time.
the invitation.
Whoa, big hand. Thank you so much. So we take a little break of a couple of minutes, and then we continue with the next presentation by Mario Romera, another student from Interface Cultures here in Linz. He will be joining us here in the studio in Linz, so we have to change laptops and everything. So 5 minutes break, and then we're ready to go, and we're back online. Thank you. Agora Digitalis, the platform where artists, researchers and students share their work and their research at the University of the Arts Linz, organized by Interface Cultures Department. Next to me, I have our new student guest, Mario Romera. He will be talking about his work that is exhibited in the exhibition here at the Art University. And if you have questions for Mario, please click on the link to the Etherpad and mail them or send them to us, and we will take them into our discussion. Mario, the floor is yours.
Hello? Okay. Hello. So I will introduce briefly myself. I am an artist, or try to live from it also, dedicated to create art that is engaging the people in art experiences. And by doing this type of works, as you can see in the screen, I always try to achieve some kind of interaction where the people are more aware of some concepts that are related to their daily lives. Yeah. So I want to show you one project that I did. This is a project that is called Communa con la Cocina, that it was an interactive installation for cooking together. And this was my previous last project that I did here at Interface Cultures in the Art University of Linz. And it's called Mod Mess, and it was a matrix of fonts which were reacting to the messages that the people would send to a network. And it was my first try to kind of engage with a big crowd in a more like a technological way. And basically I got very interested in working with mobile technologies and web technologies, and therefore I developed this the project that I'm exhibiting now at the Wild State exhibition in the State of Intimacy Department exhibition of Interface Cultures. And briefly I will also explain you the project and how I develop all the research process that also together with Anne we could test it out in a lecture. And the project is called Proof of Consensus, and it's a research about decision making collectively and most of the times digitally, even though, for example, now it's exhibited in a local network where the people are physically in the same space. I will go briefly over the explanation of the project, where I have this poster and everything is kind of explained here. There are some interesting points that I wanted to treat with this project, and some of them are technologies and protocols that I believe are important for the people to know their existence and how they are disruptive in the way we think about technology. And also I was very focused on kind of making an easy learning curve for this technology, so I was also conducting a workshop about this project and the protocols I'm using, because I also wanted to develop this black box of technology to the people that is like me, that without a technical background. And how I did this is basically experimenting with the technologies that I have around, especially web technologies are very common that we use every day, and also the mobile phones and or devices like the desktop laptops. Yeah. And for that, at the beginning of the lockdown, we had a lecture with Anne Nigten that it was social design, and for this lecture, I was taking part of it. I wanted to try some collaborative project where I will kind of unite the texts of the students that were applying for the Ars Electronica project exhibition. And then therefore I decided to gather some of the text that the students were writing, And I'm very interested in natural language processing because I think it's a technology that currently is one of the most used technologies for capitalism surveillance or surveillance capitalism that is basically reading and listening to everything that we write and share along the network. And this is how they kind of get to know what are the things we like and how they can better target us in terms of marketing. And to get a bit into this field, I was for the project, the first experience, I developed a text analyzer, which was based on an algorithm that is called TF-ADF, that is the most common uncommon words of a text. And I was retrieving this with this algorithm, some keywords that are generated from the text that the students were writing. But currently, it's in this project, I decided to use Etherpad, coming from the experience of the workshop I was doing, that it was the most useful text tool that we were having, because we had video calls and things like this, but it was, at the end of the day, very tricky, so text is one of the most reliable things, especially to treat it after. Basically, I'm explaining this because the next step is that using a bunch of protocols that are very related to horizontal structures of organizing, like peer-to-peer, I could establish a way in which communicating with each other it doesn't have to go through a very high hierarchy or yeah. So, and especially naming the kind of I just got into knowing the project Big Water, my friend from the Hong Kong people that is exhibiting here in Ars Electronica, and it was one of the inspirations for this project, because these protocols like peer-to-peer and even blockchain is it was also very inspirational, are kind of showing how in cases of emergency where the censorship is it's a big problem, these technologies could save the day for a lot of people that is struggling politically against censor systems. And the idea of this project is basically a kind of an easing a tool to analyze text and then discuss it together with other people by playing and creating a kind of a collective drawing of how do we think about some kind of keywords that are extracted from the text. Yeah, and if there is any question, I can.
Yes. First of all, big hands for Mario. And if there is any questions, I don't think we have any questions online. No. Is there a question from the room? No. Oh, we're out of time. So, if you want to see the work of Mario, please visit the exhibition at the Art University here in Linz. And thank you again, Mario.
Thanks to you. Thank you.
Give him a big hand. We are taking a little break, and then we move to Pedro Zagoto, our next guest from Piet Zwart Institute Rotterdam, who will be joining us online. So in a couple of minutes, we're back again. Welcome back at Agora Digitalis, the meeting space for students, researchers and artists at the University of the Arts and Design in Linz. This afternoon we have several presentations by students from our partner universities online, and the first guest who will be presenting his work is Pedro Zagoto from the Piet Zwart Institute in Rotterdam. Welcome, Pedro. And I'm going to give the floor to him. But before, I would like to ask people if they have questions to follow the link at the streaming site to write down the questions for Pedro after his presentation. Okay, thank you.
So I will start just by sharing my presentation. Yes. So I'm Pedro, and I've recently graduated from the Piet Zwart Institute, and I just wanted to say that it's a pleasure to be present here, and I'd like to thank the Piet Zwart for making also this possible. And today I will be presenting my project that is Tactical Watermarks. So Tactical Watermarks is an online republishing platform. It is built with Flask and is hosted in 2 Raspberry Pis. It exists both in the clear and in the dark web, and due to the politics of the project and its constraints, the 2 instances of the platform don't share the same functionalities. It is not a library, and it's also not an archive, and this means that I don't keep the files or intend to archive them. In Tactical Watermarks, what I've opened was a space where users can upload the watermark files and append new anonymous watermarks with a technical and personal regards around sharing specific texts. In this platform, I also make use of digital watermarks as a means to make visible topics such as anonymity, paywalls, archives, and provenance. And in the end, these stories will circulate alongside the main narrative. And I wanted first to start addressing why did I start looking into watermarks? My research departs from the question, how can publishing bypass surveillance, and what countermeasures are playing an active role within this process. And in this research, I delved into how digital surveillance manifests through different channels, and then focus on the realm of publishing. So while in the beginning, and this is 2 watermarks that we are looking at, analog watermarks were used to establish provenance to manufacturers of paper, paper mills, and manuscripts. And they transported clues from the artisans who made the sheets of paper to geographical territories where the paper was made. And after they started to appear across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, their use contributed to increasing the desire for specific papers, and it was also a critical factor in recognizing paper quality. Then we can see a shift. Watermarks were appropriated and they started to exist digitally, and they were appropriated also by the publishing businesses. They are used now to create a body of evidence on users, adding traces that relate to the subject. And an excellent example of this is the enforcement by various book publishers, and their books are sold in an online ebook store where they append in the beginning of each page the downloader's name and his or her email address. This is what you can see on the picture of the top with my name. Another example is from JSTOR and other publishers that append the watermark of the IP address of the downloader in the footer of every page, and this is what you can see on the picture from the bottom. And there is a big shift on how we perceive watermarks nowadays, because from their background, where they would add value to the paper, until their appropriation and used as an asset to incite fear, create self-awareness, and to constrain user action. And my project starts from departs from this point of view, where I consider the early framework of analog watermarks necessary to resurface. So this is, I will delve deeper into the platform. where I'm reappropriating and republishing. This is the first route of the application, and this is where users upload the watermark title. And that's here. The title can be an academic journal, a book, etc., and it can be both in PDF and in EPUB. At the same time, you are uploading your file. You are asked to fill in a few questions. They are asked to identify with a name, nickname, or pseudonym, asked if they digitized the book, how long did it take them, where did they find the source, and why are they sharing the file. And this book and this file and this form enters the platform, and it stays there in the first server for 5 minutes at most. And then it's when it will be processed and dewatermarked while it's moved to another server. A dewatermarked paper looks like this. This is what you see is an example of a file from JSTOR that had its cover watermarked, and now it's dewatermarked. And what I've done is, instead of just deleting the watermarks that were there, what I do is I overlay new ones as a way to critique on the situation more than just fixing it and ignoring the problem. And this is another file from JSTOR that has its inside the watermark on all the different the test. Then after the file is dewatermarked, the uploader signature, as I call it, it's produced from the answers when the upload was done. I overlay the uploader signature, which is the new visible watermark, to the cover of the dewatermarked file. With this watermark, I'm able to make the processes that are often invisible visible, and portraying the users and labor behind each uploaded text. And my motivation was all the invisible individuals that exist daily behind extra-legal publishing platforms, from curators, the ones who host and download material, and even the ones that are uploading and downloading. And through this uploader signature, and that is a watermark, I embed a new layer of information that is often solved within the process of sharing text, creating also a new layer of information that is able to document provenance and their traces alongside the different texts. And by provenance, it's also important to say this. I intend to express all the trails that are not used to surveil users, but the ones that are able to trace historical importance to files and that facilitate personal insights within an archive or a library. And after all this happens, and the file has been dewatermarked and the folder signature has been appended, it is time to republish. And I republish this text to a few shadow libraries. And if you want to know more about it, you can also go to my website. That is on the left, and this is the Tactic Watermarks platform. And if you have any questions or comments that you feel more comfortable discussing in private, you can also go to my website that's on the right, the link, and you can find my email, and I would love to discuss more about it. I would like to finish by thanks for inviting me, and if any questions might appear, I would be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Pedro. We actually, what happened there? There you go. Thank you for this beautiful presentation. Actually, we do have some questions from our online audience. So Karen, for example, has 2 questions. I'm going to read both of them aloud for you. Do you consider your publishing platform as a kind of publishing stream where documents can flow into? To be watermarked, it's not an archive nor a collection. That's her first question. And the second question is, do you know where do the watermarked files end up in online libraries, or can you access them? So that's 2 questions from Karen, and I have another one coming up from somebody else. So do this first.
I will start by answering probably the first part. That's easy in a way because my platform is a republishing stream. That's what I call it, because files that are watermarked go there, and then they follow different routes. And it's true that I call it that is not an archive nor a collection because I'm not. I don't plan to archive the files. So what I do, and this is very important, I only create an archive of the covers of the text that are republished. And this is because this is where the uploader signature is. And what I wanted to document was not the files and their what they have in the inside. I wanted to document these stories. And the files, I think that in a longer time, I will be able to find them circulating among peers and on online communities, I hope so. And to answer the second question, that is, do you know where do the real watermark files end up in online libraries? Yes, because as a republishing stream, I also have a important part that is republishing them, and I'm republishing them in a few shadow libraries that exist. So I'm also part of this last step of republish. So, and of course that I don't want it to stay here because it's really interesting that you are saying, do you know where they will end up? If I encounter them also among peers, I will always be able to identify them because of the watermarks and because of the stories and because they are able to document the process where they've been through instead of being like an airtight text that appears on an online library.
Okay, yes, thank you. And we would like you to answer briefly, because we're running out of time, to the question from Sarah that's in the Etherpad. Why did you choose to upload your platform in the dark web?
I'm listening to feedback. So what happens, and I will try to explain it very briefly, it's the platform that exists in the dark web, the access is through Tor protocol, and it allows users to access the web application through .onion top-level domain. The onion address establishes a higher level of protection to users of the platform, and I see this releasing this version as a generous act regarding all the ones that want to get involved but still want to maintain a higher standard of anonymity, and that's what I wanted also to be able to achieve.
We have to leave it with this. I think there is many more questions for your interesting work, but we have to move to our next guest. So, Pedro, a big hand for you, and thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, thank you. And for our audience, we take a very short break for our next guest from Italy. That will be Giulio Intellandi, and he will be presenting online as well. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Thank you. Uh, Hello, welcome back to Agora Digitalis. My name is Anne Nigten. Agora Digitalis is the platform for students, artists and researchers from the University of the Art and Design in Linz and their partner universities. This afternoon we have some beautiful presentations by students and researchers from our partner institutes, and I will start with Giulio Intellandi from the University Polytechnico di Milano. And if you have questions for Giulio, please use the link on the website where the stream is and type in the Etherpad your questions. And now we switch to Giulio. Giulio, please share your screen and the floor is yours.
Yeah. Can you see my screen? I can't hear you.
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you loud and clear, so please take the floor.
So hello everyone, I am Giulio Interlandi, and today I'll show you this work, which is focused on the design of interactions for the inactive storytelling experiences. Today we are living in a world that is pervasively filled with sensors and devices that are able to take the advantage of data about people to create information that is capable to enable new interaction. In fact, today's service providers rely on data to create information thanks to the digital technologies and environment that are capable to record data in real time, in a paradigm that ways are called ubiquitous computing. In the field of storytelling, interactive narratives are one of the most popular experiences, and their characteristic is the branched structure that allow users to change the storyline through interaction. One of the most successful products in interactive streaming entertainment today is the interactive movie Black Mirror Bandersnatch by Netflix. It consists of an interactive movie where a user can choose between two options with a remote control. So I have the idea that was to create an interactive film in which the user could interact unconsciously through the eye gaze. This idea was born during a workshop on eye tracking technology held at Polytechnico di Milano. It was a technology-driven design workshop. The prototype was called Hacking Netflix, and it was developed with Qt Design Studio and the Tobii device and the Tobii eye tracking device. It consisted in a sequence of selected scenes from the original storytelling experience, chosen unconsciously through the eye tracking. The feedback we received by the user of this first prototype confirmed that gaze fixation could be a contribution in terms of data for the detection of a decision-making process. But however, we realized also that, due to the emotional component of the choices, the eye gaze cannot be considered as a symptomatic of a decision or of a willing. So we get to the point, there is how it is possible to design unconscious interactive storytelling experiences. One possibility was to combine the eye tracking data with emotion detection data through face recognition technology. In this way, it was possible to continue to have an unconscious and hands-free interaction. So I started doing research in order to explore some approaches to unconscious and emotions from a cognitive point of view. And I discovered the inactive approach. To better explain what we mean by inactivity, we can quote the words of Antonio Damasio when he writes that what emerges in the mind in the form of an idea corresponds to some structure of the body in a particular state and set of circumstances. Moreover, Piatica explains that inaction emerges in the interaction between the unconscious emotionality and conscious cognition. So the question has evolved into how it is possible to design inactive storytelling experiences. And starting from the previous findings, for answering this question, I had the opportunity to conduct a research that is now published in the Human-Computer Interaction International Conference of 2020. For this research, I created a new prototype in order to study through an evidence-based exploration whether it is actually possible to use emotion detection and how this tool can contribute to the enaction in a cinematic context. This prototype was developed using a Unity 3D game engine a 2-bit device, and it consisted of a sequence of scenes during which the user has to make 4 choices. Considering both high visual and high emotional components within the cinematic image, I created the matrix to cross-reference the possibilities of interaction with the characteristic of the scene, and then to compare the data that can be obtained from it. 2 of the selections were made consciously by clicking on the choice with the mouse. The other 2 were triggered passively by using the detection of the eye gaze on a dynamic invisible area called eye area. This is the flow of the experience, and it shows both the duration of the choice and the type of input used. The data we analyzed are the ones gathered from Noldo Space Reader for the emotional component, from the prototype for the choices, and from the audio recorded interviews in order to have also qualitative feedback. The aggregation of the value shows that it is possible to identify significant emotional engagement during both the conscious and unconscious choices. So the value of the engagement during unconscious choices can be taken into account for further development of this prototype. As a conclusion, inactive interaction shifts the attention to what happens to people's mind through and during multisensory interactive processes. Moreover, some recent studies have shown that even with only 2 values, valence and arousal, it is possible to know the emotional state of the person. This image shows how, from the technology analyzed, I've identified 3 possibilities. The first is the direction of change, the one on the right, and it considers the increase or decrease of the values in order to analyze and influence the emotional state of the user. In the center, we can find the area of focus, and here the tracking data can be crossed with facial data to understand the user's emotion with respect to a single visual element. Then we have the Easter egg that it's to open new unexpected scenarios. This possible direction can be considered as a starting point because they are not definitive guidelines, but they can be an excellent starting point for the inactive approach. Then this model shows the process I followed for the design and iteration of the prototypes within a research through design approach. Furthermore, this model can be considered also as a framework to achieve an activity. About the applicability, we can foresee future technological advancement that will allow a multi-user interaction for both eye gaze and inactive control of the contents and information, creating a personalized space that can consider all the inhabitants and user of an environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this very comprehensive presentation of quite extensive research. Online, I don't see any questions. I'm just going to ask around here in the room. Are there questions for Giulio? No? Okay. One thing I was wondering is, what is your next step? What are you going to do with your research?
I want to try to use this new paradigm of interaction allowed by these kind of technologies in the interactive art, because I explored the storytelling phase, we can say, of the interaction, because with Bandersnatch we are seeing a new kind of interaction in streaming, and I'm very interested in the interaction online. But I am also wondering why don't use this kind of technology in interactive installations, because with the right technology we can see a lot of data that relies on a lot of artworks that relies on data, like that relies on API sculptures and image that relies on data in the API. And I want to try this kind of data, this personal information in real time, and trying to include it in interactive installation.
Okay, very clear. Thank you so much. You have 10 seconds left, so I think we're going to use that for a big applause and a big thank you for your beautiful presentation. Thank you and take care. That was the little alarm indicating we're finished in time. So for the audience here in Linz, we are going to move for a little demonstration at Indiara's work in the exhibition hall. For our online viewers, in a little while we will show the movie Indiara made where she's going to demonstrate her device. That will be up in a couple of minutes. And thanks again, Giulio, and we will be back online after that with the performance program at 5:30 again. So thank you, bye.